Hi gang, Rob here. It's the afternoon of 19 September 2019, Thursday afternoon. Let's see, it is about 83 degrees, brilliant sunshine, a crystal clear blue sky, and just a gentle breeze blowing in northeast Indiana. The reason for this video is it's time to launch a new video series on the TheApostleP channel, and we're going to start today. The series will be entitled Geezer Rants. Geezer Rants. Yeah. The rantings of an old dude about life in the 21st century. What prompted this? What lit the fuse? Well, the fuse has been burning for a long time, but what prompted it was that today on my normal post office and bank run, I stopped by Starbucks to get a venti iced coffee with classic and cream in a single shot. And for a few weeks now, my local Starbucks has been using these cups, which they have a spout so they don't have to use plastic straws. And they have a sign in the window that says something about, partnering with our customers to reduce our environmental footprint. And whatever millennial scholar who wrote the sign on the window couldn't spell environmental, so they had to change it, and they used a different marker. Kind of funny. The generation that knows everything and knows that my generation is stupid can't spell environmental. So that's one of the things I want to talk about today. I get two topics that sort of tie together. Modern environmentalism, the modern environmentalist industry. I'll get there. I promise I will. See, when I was a kid, when I was an elementary school kid in the early 70s, we heard about pollution, and it was a real deal. I live a couple hours from Lake Erie. It was a cesspool. You couldn't swim in it, much less drink the water. Fish were dying. The Detroit River, oh my gosh. What was it? Cleveland, the river in Cleveland caught on fire. Is that true? I think it is. But, we were littering. Our cars belched smoke. Our diesel trucks belched smoke. It wasn't good. Industrial emissions were horrible. Large cities had hazes of air pollution. You know what? By the time I was in high school, by mankind realizing its mistake and having taken lots of corrective measures, by the time I was in high school, none of that stuff was going on. 30 years later, unbelievable things started to happen. Right now, today, Lake Erie, that wasn't fit for life, is now the most prolific walleye fishery in the world. In the world. It's amazingly clean, beautiful water with these gorgeous, green, tasty fish swimming around in it. It's great. And the other examples are many and varied, but you know what happened? During the environmentalist movement of the 60s and early 70s, what started out as a good cause by well-meaning people became an industry. Thousands, tens of thousands of people started to make their living by championing environmentalist causes. That industry had no intention of dying. So new causes started to be invented. First, in the late 70s, early 80s, we were warned emphatically that we were about to enter another ice age if we didn't reduce emissions even further. Just because the air looked clear and the water looked clean and things didn't smell bad, that didn't mean that we weren't still destroying the planet. When the ice age predictions didn't come true, when the models proved to be folly, a new thing happened. We were wrong about the ice age. Instead, we were going to die from rising sea levels and other horrific consequences of global warming. New groups of scientists convened. They developed new models. There are, I don't know, 15 or 20 models you can look at in the last 30 years that predicted the demise of the planet before 2019. We're all still here. The sun is not giving us radiation poisoning, at least not to unmanageable levels. The sea level has barely moved. Could it be that this industry of environmentalism is a global thing, and really they're just using scare tactics, getting the people of Earth to buy into the scare tactics and send them lots of money? Let's look at the Paris Climate Accord for a moment, shall we? Anybody know what was in there? Well, here it is in a nutshell. The attendees of the Paris climate talks had developed a plan by which the richest nations on Earth, one of them who happens to be the largest producer of goods and agricultural products on the planet, the United States of America, who is nowhere near the largest polluter on Earth, would be fined billions, trillions of dollars for its environmental irresponsibility. What about the nations who are the worst polluters on Earth? China, India, Pakistan. Well, those are developing nations, so they can't bear the burden of the cost for the consequences of their actions. And all these trillions of dollars need to be sent to them and third world nations so they can become environmentally responsible. How does that work, you think? Well, I think we have an example right here in America. Anybody remember a city named New Orleans? A city run by progressive Democrats with a large population of extremely poor people. A city built in an area that requires water to be pumped out of it even during normal weather so that it doesn't sink below sea level and be flooded and ravaged. Well, before Katrina, back in the 90s, the 1990s, the progressive liberal politicians in New Orleans and the state of Louisiana successfully lobbied the federal government to give them $500 billion to improve their dike system and their pumping stations. Why? Because they needed to be able to avoid a once-a-century hurricane like Katrina. What happened to the money? You have a population of extremely poor people governed by greedy, power-hungry, progressive, liberal politicians who spent all the money and didn't do much work on the dike system or the pumping stations. What do you think's going to happen when we send the fine money from the Paris Climate Accord, if we were still in it? Wisely, we have not signed on. What do you think is going to happen while that fine money is sent to loudmouth, powerful dictators in third world countries? You think they're going to spend it on retrofitting their fledgling industries with environmentally friendly systems? I think not. I think it's about global redistribution of wealth. But we're teaching our kids that all these environmental lies are true, so they can be scared and willingly give up their resources, the fruit of their labor, so that corrupt politicians can redistribute wealth globally. I got one other thing to talk about. Sustainable farming. Sustainable farming. Look up that term. You can get the definition real quickly off Google. It's It's a way of thinking that develops systems for growing agricultural products that are sustainable over the long term, while at the same time minimizing negative impact on, you guessed it, the environment. We're going to tie these two issues together with two words: cow farts. See, part of this sustainable farming idea is that we shouldn't be eating beef, and we should be growing vegetable products in a way that is sustainable. Okay, I think the first part of that we've already covered. So let's talk about sustainability. Systems for farming producing agricultural products that repeat themselves over and over and over for long periods of time. Let's see. Is that a new idea? Is it? Well, let me tell you a story about a country that's, 243 years old, in a land that's been inhabited by the same stock for almost 400 years. When these evil white Europeans came to the New World, North America, we'll just use that popular date, 1620, when the Pilgrims, the Puritans, came over from England. They had no idea how to grow anything here. The Native Americans helped them out, taught them how to grow crops. They could barely grow enough to keep themselves alive. By 1800, they were farming pretty well. They were farming real well, long before 1800. But we'll jump up to a period that we actually have data for. In 1800, the population density was about 1/5 of what it is today. So there are 5 times as many people living on every acre of land now than there were then. That's only a little over 200 years ago. But we've been farming for almost 400 here on this continent. So today, with 5 times the population density, we now grow enough food not only to feed ourselves, but we are the largest exporter of agricultural goods on the planet by far, bar none. And by the way, we're doing it on less acreage with fewer farms than we were 50 years ago. Apparently, farming in the United States of America is pretty doggone sustainable. In fact, it keeps getting more efficient and more sustainable all the time. So next time you see a commercial talking about a product that is produced with sustainable raw materials, just chuckle and go buy something else. And by the way, let's tie all this up, shall we? Although people who do not know the Lord and aren't familiar with His Word are easily put in a state of panic at the idea that man can destroy the earth, it's just not so. It could be that there is a being, the true and living God, who created all this stuff we see. He knew before He created it who He was going to put on it, how they would develop into societies and discoveries and inventions that they would make. And He designed this earth to support them with the results of their good ideas and their bad ideas, which He created them to learn from. And this planet, this ecosystem on earth, would support them until the day when He decides, which He's already determined, that He's going to take this earth out. Don't be fooled, my friends. Trust in the Lord. That's all for this one. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp.